What is happening, Blades? And welcome back to the Blades Ramble. I am, of course, Jimmy, and we are back with our plan for Jan, and this is the Midfielders edition. We're getting further up that pitch, aren't we? The ones that we all like to talk about, the more exciting players. This is the number one place for all the Sheffield United transfer gossip and news. Anything you want to talk about, we're here. It's a back and forth conversation between the two of us. Obviously not when I'm recording, but in the comments, and we can go back and forth. So thank you to everybody that supports this channel. If you do like what we do, you can like, comment, share, and subscribe because we are growing all the time. Very much appreciated. And as we've done with the previous videos, we're going to look at our current situation first. Who's in the squad? What have we got at the moment? What is Wilder working with? And what assessments does he have to make? For those that aren't aware, I've just recalled Frankie Maguire, Harrison Neal, and Ollie Arblaster from their respective loans. They are now back with Sheffield United. Neal and Maguire, I'd like to see them both go back out and get more minutes on loan. We need to see how they're going to do further down the pyramid at a level that suits them, and then progressively increase that level if we can do, if they're going to be making moves and making waves at Sheffield United. Ollie Arblaster, I think, needs to sign a new deal first and foremost, as does Andre Brooks. And I'd like to see both of them involved in the first team setup at Bramall Lane this season and see how they continue to do at Premier League level, particularly Brooks, who's started really well, looked like he tired and became a little bit inconsistent over the last couple of games, but that's what you're going to get with youngsters. We have to persist with them and believe in them because we know what he can do. So let's get them tied down so they are the future of this football club. Keep them around and keep them involved because that's what's going to continue to bring them on. It's widely circulated that Izzy Koulibaly may well be leaving the club. I think that's a smart move. AIK is being rumoured to be the team that's going to take him. Whoever wants to take him, I think that's necessary to free up squad space. And I'm also hearing that John Fleck will be listening to offers for as well. I'm sure there'll be some takers in Scotland. John Fleck, absolutely superb servant to our club. But I think we'd all agree that he's well past his prime, and he's certainly on the decline as a star for Sheffield United, let's be right. There's controversial figures in there like Ben Osborne, Ollie Norwood, whose contracts are up at the end of the season. I think we keep them in the squad for now. I think we're freeing up enough space with the moves that we're making, and we don't make a rash decision on those. We've got to remember, it is January. We're not trying to completely overhaul everything. We're just trying to make a shed load of improvements where we can. So good squad players like Ollie Norwood and Ben Osborne. I don't believe either of them are Premier League players, if I'm honest, but they're staying with us for the duration of this season. Anis Slimani, I think, flattered to deceive at times, but I want to believe in him. I think he's a very good young player. We've now lost him to AFCON for a little bit, but at 22-year-old, I think he's been the best of our development signings. And speaking of development signings, Benny Traore, who's strictly a forward and could have been mentioned in the next video, why wait? It looks like he's gone to Nantes now. From what I understand, it's a loan with an option to buy, and people have been saying, well, that's been a waste of money. Why have we spent it? Blah, blah, blah. If he signs for Nantes, and that's a big if, because I was surprised that it was an option rather than an obligation, but if he signs for Nantes, then we have not lost any money on that deal. None of it, because he didn't hit the add-ons. We're not out of pocket, but that's only if the deal's made permanent. And if they don't make that deal permanent, which I'd be surprised, but if they don't make that deal permanent, then we've got a Benny Traore coming back who will have played half a season in League One or League in France. So some were upset about the deal being done. I'm a little bit confused in certain elements of it, like I've said, but some were upsetting him leaving permanently. So they might be satisfied with the fact there's still a chance he comes back because he'll be a better player, hopefully, if he does. And some are delighted to see it back of him anyway because they never thought he was good enough. So in either camp, I think we've got to be fairly satisfied with the deal. Tom Davies is back on the grass, as they say nowadays. So he should hopefully be coming into the first team picture over the next coming weeks. I think it's going to be a bit early for him for Gillingham. But we've got obviously Gus Hamer, Vinny Souza, James McAtee in that midfield. McAtee's going nowhere. I think he's well worth that second domestic loan spot. So those are our midfielders that we've got currently. Quantity, yes. Maybe not the quality. There's a few options here. And again, it depends how fluid you want to be with your domestic loan. Depends how keen you are to spend next season's budget. And it doesn't look like we're looking at permanent deals out of next year's budget. It looks like we are going for spending a little bit up front on loan fees. So what I'm going to do is slightly different to what Wilder's probably going to do. First name on my list is Imran Loser. And that is Loser from Watford, who appears to have fallen out with Val Ismail because he's not getting in, from what I understand, at Watford. But when we saw him at the Lane, I thought he was an absolute technical genius. Now, he's got several years to run in his contract. He's a centre midfielder, really technically gifted, as I say, and Wilder will know all about him. So if there are any links to, there aren't currently, but if there were to be any links to him, or if he's to be asked about him, then Wilder will know whether he fancies him or not, because he played a lot for Wilder when he were at Watford. But I like him. I think he's technically gifted. Loser and Souza in the middle would at least roll off the tongue nicely. So one to consider. But because he's got a long contract and we don't know how much he costs, probably 5 million plus, he's not one that we're going to consider this time. But he's one I'm chucking in the mix just to see what you think. The one I really want, that I don't think we're going to go for because he will be too expensive, is Jonathan Rowe at Norwich. This kid's come through their youth system and he's taken the Championship by storm this season. 10 goals and 2 assists in 24 games from midfield. He's 20-year-old and I've no idea when his contract's up. It won't be on a lot of money, but they will be doing everything they can to tie him down to a better deal, because they will be asking at least 8 million plus for him, and we won't be the only ones circling. So I doubt this one will get over the line, but not because I don't want it to. I think if the offer was there, if the money was there, we could well be in for him. But Jonathan Rowe would be at top of my list, but we're not going to go for him because we're not going to have the cash. It was just one I wanted to tease you with, to be honest. More realistic signings include Chris Willick at QPR. Now, a controversial one, this, because there's somebody else on the list, probably tomorrow, from QPR that people talk a lot more about. But Chris Willick cannot be underestimated. He sometimes goes under the radar a little bit, I think, because of his injury problems. But when he gets a clear run in the team, he can be an absolute difference maker. And we've got to think, we are planning a little bit for next year. He's said to be out of contract in the summer. Would they take a cut price deal for him? Would you think about a cheeky swap deal, maybe for Ollie Norwood in the mix for a younger Chris Willick? I think that might be a goer, you know. I'm not saying they'd take a swap deal, but I think for the amount we probably have to pay, we being in last year of his contract, I think this one could be a goer. Let me know what you think. In a similar ilk, somebody that Ramblers chat does not stop talking about sometimes, particularly one or two of them, Calum Murray at Coventry. What a job Mark Robbins is doing at Coventry, by the way. Absolute massive turnaround after selling Gyok to Sporting Lisbon and Hamer to us. They're two best players by a country mile. And now Calum Murray, after coming back from that horrible injury he picked up against us last season, is taking the bull by the horns and just run with it. Absolutely run with it. So they are not short of cash, Coventry, because of the money they got in that summer. They've spent a fair bit of money. So I don't think they're desperate for cash. But here's another one that's out of contract at the end of the season. Loves to play in the number 10. I think if we're going to lose McAtee in the summer, whether we're relegated or not, because obviously he's not our player, he'd slot in ideally just off the striker in that right-hand side. Calum Murray, Chris Willick, I'm not fussy. Let's go get one of them in. And the final player I'm going to mention to you, whether it happens or not, I'm not entirely sure. More of a central midfielder this time, but does like to get forward. Don't think he cost a lot of money because Huddersfield haven't got a lot of money. But Jack Redoni, left footer, would slot into that Andre Brooks midfield role really well, complemented by Hamer of the opposite side to him and Souza holding the fort behind him. I think Jack Redoni slots in beautifully to our midfield. A great ball carrier, real good potential. Started off at Wimbledon, but he has got some time to run his contract, I believe. So not going to be the cheapest of deals, but as I say, Huddersfield aren't a cash-rich club. So there may be a deal to be done there. But in terms of, if I'm picking one, Rowe would be the one that I want. But in terms of what's the realistic deal for the club, I think we've got to look at somebody like Calum Murray or a Chris Willick and doing that deal now, if we can. So let me know what you think. Again, you might think I'm absolutely balmy in terms of some of my selections, and I might have missed some absolutely obvious ones. So let me know down below. If you do like what we're doing, please do like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. You can contribute more by becoming a Rambler or supporting even further through Patreon and getting access to extra perks and things of that nature. Thank you to everybody that does support. It keeps the channel going. You'll all know that we've got some big plans for 2024. And it's just exciting where we can go into it. So, and you're going to be a part of that. So thank you, everybody, for your support. Join us in the next one where we look at our forward line. The strikers are the ones that everybody wants to talk about, aren't they? So next time, that is the one. But for now, come on, you red and white wizards. Up the blades. Ramble on.